Welcome to the Global Reader. Today, we follow the trail of one of history's most audacious adventurers, Amelia Earhart. More than just a pilot, she was a symbol of courage and a pioneer who challenged the societal constraints placed upon women in the early 20th century. Her life was defined by the sky, and her legacy is marked by its ultimate, haunting mystery. The disappearance of her plane in 1937. This narrative chronicles her final, ambitious flight, an attempt to be the first person to circumnavigate the globe around the equator. Our English learning component is prepositions of movement and location. We will use words like across, through, over, into, beyond, and toward to map a journey and understand the precise dynamics of her navigation. By the end of this story, you will have internalized how these small, but vital, words shape the meaning of location and action in English. Chapter 1. The inception of a legend. Amelia Earhart's passion for flight was not innate. It was sparked in 1920 when she took a 10-minute airplane ride. That brief experience, soaring above the California fields, instantly changed her trajectory. She resolved to learn to fly, working odd jobs to finance her lessons and eventually purchasing her first plane, a brightly painted yellow biplane she nicknamed the Canary. She quickly gained a reputation for skill and determination. Her life was organized around the single goal of pushing the boundaries of aviation. She broke several speed and altitude records, but her true fame arrived in 1928 when she became the first woman to fly across the Atlantic Ocean. Although she was only a passenger, her poise and her public articulation of her ambition instantly catapulted her into international stardom. This initial fame came with a unique set of constraints. The media focused on her appearance and her perceived feminine charm rather than her genuine expertise. However, she was pragmatic. She used the acclaimed to advocate for women's rights and to champion aviation as a viable career for women. She often spoke out against the prejudice she faced. By 1932, determined to validate her reputation as a solo pilot, she embarked upon a historic flight. She flew alone from Newfoundland, Canada, to a pasture in Northern Ireland. This solo feat firmly established her among the world's most elite aviators. She demonstrated that the sky was not a place exclusively for men. Chapter 2. The confluence of ambition and expertise. In 1937, Amelia Earhart, now 39, set her sights on her greatest undertaking, flying around the world along the equator. This was a formidable endeavor, covering roughly 29,000 miles. Her choice of navigator was the highly skilled but somewhat reluctant Fred Noonan, whose extensive experience in celestial navigation was imperative for the vast, featureless stretches of the Pacific Ocean. Their aircraft was a twin-engine Lockheed Electra 10E, a modern but complex plane packed with extra fuel tanks. The initial attempt to fly from west to east was aborted after a runway accident in Hawaii. Undeterred, Amelia persisted. In contrast to the usual route, she decided to fly east from Oakland, California, toward the Atlantic. The journey began on June 1, 1937. The first two-thirds of the flight, covering the Atlantic, Africa, India, and Southeast Asia, was successfully completed. The plane flew over continents, across vast deserts, and through monsoon rains. Amelia meticulously documented each leg, recording her experiences and the challenges she faced with the aircraft. By the time they reached New Guinea on June 29, they will have covered over 22,000 miles. They had successfully navigated through the most geographically diverse and politically volatile regions of the world. Now, only 7,000 miles remained, all of it over the treacherous, immense, empty ocean. The final, crucial leg required pinpoint accuracy, finding tiny Howland Island, a remote U.S. territory barely visible above the water. Chapter 3. The Pacific Expanse and the Failure of Coordination. The flight from to Howland Island, scheduled for July 2, 1937, was the longest and most dangerous single leg, about 2,556 miles. The challenge was locating the island, which measured just 2 miles long and half a mile wide. The navigation relied on a combination of Fred Noonan's celestial readings and radio contact with a U.S. Coast Guard cutter, the Itasca, stationed off the coast of Howland. Amelia's radio equipment was notoriously temperamental. The Itasca attempted to transmit a clear navigational beacon, but Amelia could not properly receive or home in on the signal. Her transmissions, on the other hand, were heard clearly by the Itasca. This failure to establish two-way radio coordination proved to be a fatal flaw. As the Electra flew beyond the range of land, navigating across Thamon's Pacific, the air grew tense. The Itasca crew heard Amelia's fragmented reports, pinpointing her location relative to their position. Throughout the early morning hours of July 2, Earhart and Noonan were searching for the island, flying low over the water, battling cloud cover and strong headwinds. Her final, chilling transmissions confirmed their desperate predicament. At 7:42 a.m. local time, the Itasca heard her say, "We are running north and south." This meant they had missed the island and were flying parallel to its position, searching for the thin line of sand in the vast ocean. Her very last broadcast, heard just over an hour later, was disjointed, but the essence was clear. They were near but could not see the island, and fuel was dangerously low. Chapter 4: The Inquiry and the Prevailing Theories. The official search began immediately. The U.S. Navy and Coast Guard mobilized a massive effort, sending ships across thousands of square miles of the Pacific. This was one of the most extensive and expensive air searches in U.S. history up to that point, covering an area the size of Texas. The search continued for 2 weeks, probing into every possible location, but the aircraft, the crew, and any subsequent sign of a crash were never found. The official conclusion, based on the available data and the final radio messages, was the crash and sink theory. This postulates that the plane ran out of fuel near Howland Island and crashed into the deep ocean, where the wreckage will have descended through the water column and will have settled onto the Pacific floor. This theory is supported by the fact that the Itasca heard her flying along the projected line of approach. However, the mystery proved too compelling to be contained within this simple explanation, and other theories emerged. One of the most promising diverted attention toward Gardner Island, now Nicumaroro, a remote, uninhabited coral atoll over 300 miles southeast from Howland. This is known as the landing or castaway theory. This hypothesis suggests that Amelia and Noonan might have realized they could not find Howland and flew to the nearest available land. Risacinto Nicumaroro Suncovered tantalizing, though not conclusive, evidence. Artifacts, including fragments of what might have been a woman's compact, remnants of a shoe, and bones that, when examined, suggested the remains of a tall woman of mixed European ancestry. These findings keep the speculation alive that Amelia and Noonan might have survived the crash, only to perish on the island as castaways. Conclusion: the legacy and the unseen path. Amelia Earhart's final flight, though ending in tragedy, remains a powerful testament to the human spirit's desire to fly beyond the known limits. Her story is one of ultimate dedication to a dream, regardless of the peril involved. For English learners, this journey has provided a comprehensive look at prepositions of movement and location. Movement: we flew across the ocean, through the clouds, and toward the island. Location: the Itasca was stationed off the coast, and the wreckage settled onto the ocean floor. Amelia Earhart disappeared in the vastness of the Pacific, but her message will live on, a clear call to keep flying into the future, never allowing fear to become the final destination. Her legacy will forever reside among the stars she aimed for.